Hi, my name is Spencer Baylor, and I'm from the Strawberry Crest FFA chapter.
My name's Gillian Matheson, and I'm from the Newsome FFA chapter.
Today we will be going over proper restraint of beef animals, as well as different animal identification methods.
In addition to that, we will be going over the proper administration of vaccines, drug withdrawal time, and dosage calculation.
Now we will talk about how to properly administer vaccinations. Behind us we have a heifer, which we've highlighted the 3 different areas which you give injections. The 3 different types of injections are intramuscular, subcutaneous, and intravenous.
There are many different sizes and lengths of needles. The 2 most common sizes to use in cattle are the 16-gauge needle and 18-gauge needle, ranging from anywhere at 1 inch in length to 1.5 inches. When giving an intramuscular injection, we like to give it in the middle of the neck to maintain carcass quality. Usually you use a 16-gauge or 18-gauge needle and about 1 inch so that we don't go too far into the muscle in the neck. When giving an intramuscular injection, you're going to take your needle and your syringe and place it directly and straight into the muscle. Make sure that you don't go too far back into their shoulder where there's a lot of bone and not as much muscle. Now when giving subcutaneous injections, we can also go right in that same area in the neck. We just have a little bit larger area to work with and go right behind their shoulder blade. What we're looking for is just a bunch of pliable skin that we can tent and insert our needle into. The best length of needle to use for subcutaneous injection is 1.5 inches. That way you have plenty of room to get right under that first skin layer and not go into the muscle. You can use anything from a 16-gauge to an 18-gauge. The smaller that you go, it will be more comfortable for the cow because the needle is smaller. And lastly, we have intravenous injection. That means injecting a drug right into their vein. We can also use this to give them IV fluids to rehydrate our cattle if they're sick. Now, how to find our jugular vein is this nice orange line right here in their neck. It's a big vein flowing all the way from the bottom to the top. We can find it by holding off our vein and it'll pop up. And then we just slowly insert our needle up into that vein and pull back to make sure we found it. And once you have blood in your syringe, we slowly push up and back on the syringe until all of our drugs have been administered into our cow.
Now we will talk about proper restraint of beef animals. On most beef cattle operations, you'll find a squeeze chute. Squeeze chutes are used to restrain the animals to make it safer for both the humans and the animal itself. Squeeze chutes have many different uses. They can be used to administer vaccinations, ear tagging, branding, artificial insemination, and many different other things. The squeezing will help hold the animal still as well as keeping them calm to keep it safe for you and the animal. Another restraint method that we use as exhibitors is a halter. The halter is to be placed over their ears and onto the bridge of their nose about midway through to ensure safety for you and the animal. You can tie the animal up for clipping, grooming, washing, and as well as shows to ensure that the animal is safe for others around you and the animal itself.
Now we will be talking about different types of animal identification used in the cattle industry. The most common practices include ear tagging, branding, and tattooing cattle.
The first type of ear tag is the most common type of ear tag. It is plastic and can be placed in any cow's ear. It is custom to the ranch and as well as the cow and is not regulated by any federal agency. The second type of ear tag we have is the 840. It is more formally known as the Federal Premise ID. It has an RFID chip which can be scanned by any health inspector to locate the point of origin of that animal. And here we have an ear tagging gun which can be used on both the common ear tag and the federal ID ear tag. Another form of animal identification is branding. There are 2 different types of branding, hot branding and freeze branding. Branding is either done on the hip of the animal or the shoulder, and is most commonly used on American influenced animals as they tend to have shorter hair. Brands are custom to the farm and look like this.
Lastly, we can use tattoos to identify cattle. Tattoos are always placed in the ear and are placed in the ear using a tattoo clamp that looks like this. Tattooing is a less common practice due to it being harder to read in darker skinned ears. But the upside is that they last forever and can't be washed away or taken out. Now we will talk about dosage calculation. Before we can draw up our drug, we have to figure out our animal's weight.
There are two main methods of gathering your animal's weight. The first method is using a scale. This method is the most precise, however, scales are not always easily accessible. The second method uses a tape measure and a formula. The formula lists as follows: heart girth squared times body length divided by 300.
After you've found your animal's weight, take your bottle of antibiotic or whatever drug you're using for your cattle and find the dosage. This bottle reads 1 milliliter per 100 pounds. So if you have 1,000-pound cattle, you're going to administer 10 milliliters of this drug to them. Also make sure to check that you're giving it in the proper place and in the proper way, like the 3 types that we talked about earlier: intramuscular, subcutaneous, or intravenous. This one is given subcutaneously. Before you administer your drug to your cow, make sure that you check the withdrawal time on the label.
Withdrawal times are important, especially for cattle who are going to slaughter or dairy cows whose products are being consumed by humans.
The way that you can find your withdrawal time is looking at the back of your antibiotic label. Usually it will be labeled residue warnings. This one reads that you should not treat cattle within 21 days of slaughter, and for dairy cattle, it says that there's not been a withdrawal time established, so please do not use. So you'd have to find a different product if you had a dairy cow.
Today, we have gone over how to properly restrain beef cattle, how to properly administer vaccinations,
Different types of animal identification, how to calculate the dosage of a drug, and withdrawal times of antibiotics.
We hope you learned something from our video today, and thank you for watching.